All right, welcome to Nurse JJ's injury report heading into week 3. Decided to make my own video this week because it makes the league so much more fun, and this is probably the only thing I have even the slightest bit of expertise on. So this is what I call you hate to see it, you love to see it. We're talking about injuries. Here we go. All right, we're starting with our first injury here, Drew Brees. Thumb injury. Now, originally, I thought maybe he lost a thumb. That was my favorite joke of the week, convincing Max that maybe Drew Brees had lost a thumb. But it looks like it's a torn ligament. I mean, we can't be sure. But from this picture, you can really see the pain in his eyes, and he knows what just happened. Very, very painful, I'm sure. Well, let's take a look at this injury on the next slide. So it was ruled that Drew Brees has a thumb injury, a torn ligament in his thumb, his throwing thumb, of course. This injury can sometimes be referred to as gamekeeper's thumb or skier's thumb because it prohibits you from grasping, so using your thumb to grasp and hold a football, like I'm sure he needs to do. Because of the severity of the torn ligament and the important spot that it's in, looks like they're going to do a surgical repair. So he'll go in, get it casted, repair, and then 6 to 8 weeks of recovery. I've noticed this with every injury in football. They always say, oh yeah, it'll just be like 4 to 6 weeks, 6 to 8, and then it'll be back ready to go. That's just so unlikely. I mean, we see these injuries all the time, and I don't know. I feel like it could be longer than that. Especially, you want to make sure that thing is completely healed up before he heads back in. And there's so many different things that could happen that could prohibit this, this big old wound from healing. So it's our first, you hate to see it. So a quick little shout out to Teddy Bridgewater. Wishing him luck this week. I know I need him real bad for my team to do well this week in my matchup against Adam. So good luck, Teddy. We're rooting for you. All right, our second injury of the week. Just something to talk about. Cam Newton, Carolina quarterback. He's been battling this left midfoot sprain since the third game of the preseason, I believe. And he continues to just keep aggravating it week after week. This last week on Thursday's game, kind of has set him back a little bit. He missed practice both Wednesday and Thursday being today. And it's another one of those, you hate to see it. We're not really sure what's going to happen. I know Connor's team was hurting. He picked up a new QB with a great old nasty trade with me. It's awesome. We're going to miss Cam Newton a little bit because his vlogs are amazing. Hopefully he keeps putting them out even if he's not playing. And also just his style. So if he's sitting on the sideline, hopefully we'll get to see a bit more of his style, So it's another, you hate to see it. Doing a little research on his injury. First photo down there from the preseason game when this kind of all got started. And then a photo on the right from a few weeks later with him walking around in the boot. Looks like he's had that on since the injury. So we'll see about that. I'll go into a little bit more about what a midfoot sprain is and why I'm confused that he has a boot on. All right, so a midfoot sprain, different than a strain, different than a break. There's a lot of different foot injuries you can have. And he's got a sprain. So a sprain is a tear of ligaments, which are these big old tough bands of tissue that binds your bones to joints. And the midfoot being right in the arch of the foot. So extremely, extremely painful, I'm sure. Symptoms that we see with this kind of an injury, swollen tender and a ton of bruising. And you probably shouldn't be bearing weight on it. So that's why I don't know. I just thought it's kind of interesting that he's been playing, practicing, bearing a lot of weight on it. I kind of just feel like he's been aggravating it ever since the preseason, especially these last 2 weeks. Treatment for a midfoot sprain. We all learned this in probably 9th or 8th grade health, but the RICE treatment, rest, ice, compress, and elevate. Healing time for these kind of sprains is usually only a few weeks, but if you're trying to play on it every week and you're not giving it the full rest it needs, I'm not sure how long he had it resting during the preseason, if he did at all. So, I don't know. This one is definitely kind of a play by ear kind of thing. 'Cause it kind of seems like they want him to keep playing, but we'll see. In the event that Cam Newton doesn't play this week, we have a potential Kyle Allen and Kyler Murray meetup. Both players from Texas A&M, and it could be a cute little reunion. I mean, look at those two cuties right there. All right, don't want to spend too much time on this one, but it is our one and only. You'll love to see it. Good old rapist Ben with the season-ending injury, elbow surgery. See you later, sucker. Just a quick little lasting message for you all. I hope your fantasy team has an injury-free week. They do. You can consult me at any time, and we can talk about some injuries and what the treatment looks like. Might try and do another one of these next week because there's injuries every freaking week. But I wanted to focus on the QBs this week with some big changes. I know that everybody had, or out of these three, they were on someone's team. So interesting to see what adjustments are made. And we'll catch you in again next week.